back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome. How's your day going, your night going? I hope everything is awesome. Tonight I'm here with yet another video on my playlist, 5 scary where I list 5 scary things. It doesn't matter what it is. And tonight's video is all about scary paranormal stories. Scary and real, by the way. And all these people are like my family, so yeah, it should be fun. Because growing up, I heard a lot of scary stories that I can't even remember all of them. But they were pretty fun. Ever since I was a kid, I've always loved this kind of stuff. I would like hear a scary story and I'd be like, tell me more. And I was 5 years old. What the heck, girl? Anyway, before we get started though, I just want to say that if you're new here, hello, posting videos every week, I promise. I would love it if you would go ahead and subscribe and become part of this little spooky bell fam. My faves. Because we're pretty awesome. We're a small family, but we're awesome. Super duper awesome. So yeah, also don't forget to like button if you enjoyed this video because that really helps the channel. Now if you want to hear these scary and real stories, just go ahead, turn off your lights, and stick around. So the first story happened to my stepmom. She told me that years and years ago when she was still a teenager, her dad got very ill and he had to spend days and days in the hospital. She would go visit him at the hospital every single day and then she would go back home because she had school next day. So one night she was sleeping, and you know when you're asleep but you're starting to wake up and then you feel as if someone is watching you because you're like asleep, but at the same time, you still know what's going on. You know that stage. I don't know what's it called. You know, you're still like asleep, but then you wake up kind of, oh yeah, and then you're like, sometimes you talk to someone says something, you're like, you know? And then you just go back to sleep like that, because you're still asleep, basically. So one night, at around, I don't know what time it was. I know it was around 2 or 3 a.m. Maybe 4, I don't remember. But she wakes up because she feels a presence in the room with her, watching over her. And then she opens her eyes and then she sees her dad standing at the foot of her bed. And then he turns around as if he was leaving the room. And then that's when she goes back to sleep. Because like I said, you're so sleepy, you're like, oh, okay. And then you go back. Maybe she thought she was dreaming, or I don't know what she thought. Because the next day she was getting ready in the morning, like she was eating breakfast and getting ready to go to the hospital to visit him. That's when her mom slowly goes up to her and she was acting like she wanted to tell her something, but she didn't know how to say it. But she finally tells her what happened, which was her father passed away in the middle of the night in the hospital. At that very moment, she got the chills because she remembered the dream, which she had totally forgotten about until her mom told her of his passing. Okay, so this one has got to be one of the scariest, creepiest, in my opinion. Okay, so this one happened to my sister-in-law, or soon-to-be sister-in-law? She's my sister-in-law. Anyway, she used to have sleep paralysis every night. And then one night, she notices something right beside her. Like a presence. And you know when you're having sleep paralysis, you cannot move at all. That's why it's called sleep paralysis. So she notices this presence right by her side, and she had this eerie feeling immediately, and she just wanted to snap out of it, but she couldn't. It felt like an eternity. But she was freaking out because whatever that thing was, it was giving her this, just like, I don't even know how to explain. She was terrified. Whatever that wasn't evil. That was more evil than evil. She could feel it. I don't even know if there's a word that's more evil than evil. You know, that made no sense. But she could feel it. So tears started streaming down her face. And while she was still paralyzed, she could notice. You know when you're not actually looking at someone, but you know they're looking at you? She just noticed this thing that resembled a girl. And it was wearing something white. And it was getting closer and closer to her. And all she could do was cry without moving, which is so terrifying. So as the thing's getting closer and closer to her, all of a sudden, it vanishes. And she noticed that the energy, it goes away with it. And all she's left with is her fear. Days later, she had very vivid dreams of this girl. It was a girl, but it was a terrifying looking girl. It didn't look like a girl at all, but at the same time it did, if that makes any sense. It was an entity in a little girl's form, but it had the scary face and everything else, and it was wearing white. So in one of these nightmares, which to this day she doesn't know if that was a nightmare, a lucid dream, or an actual sleep paralysis experience, she was traumatized. She does not know to this day what that thing was. So she notices the thing floating, looking at her, which I can even imagine how creepy that must be. I've had sleep paralysis experiences before. It is terrifying. But can you imagine you open your eyes and you notice like not a ghost, an entity that you know is not good, looking down at you, and you cannot move. That must be terrifying. And this thing had a messed up face, and the hair was just like, oh, I can't even imagine. But yeah, can you imagine this thing just like looking down at you in the middle of the night while you're having a sleep paralysis experience? I don't know if that was sleep paralysis, most likely, because she could not move. The thing was just like floating, nearly touching the ceiling, and laughing at her in a mockery way. And the white gown was covered in blood. Now, what do you think that was? Do you think it was a human spirit? Or do you think it was something else? Either way, it was terrifying. Okay, so the third story happened to my grandma, my dad's mom. So she has always taken care of things. And by things, I mean like funeral arrangements and all this stuff. Nobody wants to deal with because it's hella complicated, I bet. And stressful too, and just like, anyway, she used to always take care of this stuff. Like when someone dies, either a friend or someone in the family, she always takes care of it. She's very like flexible and I don't even know the word. So anyway, one day at a party or like a gathering of her friends, I don't know, one of her friends turns to her and she's like, wow, you're really something else. You literally take care of everything. When my time comes, if I go before you, I want you to take care of everything for me because my family, they cannot do it. You know, she was just like kidding around saying this stuff. And my grandma, she laughed and was like, you know, oh my God, I'm terrible at this. Anyway, months passed and my grandma was asleep. It was nighttime, of course. That's when she noticed that it started to get like really windy, and I don't know if it was summer or whatever. It was just so hot. They would like sleep with the window a little open, but it was like very windy, and the curtains were just like going crazy, and the wind was making noise and all that. Like I'm trying to make it spooky. Anyway, that's when she hears a voice that sounded like someone was whispering, like a faint whisper, calling her name. It was saying her name over and over. And it was her friend's voice. She got so scared because she knew something. Like, she didn't accept it at the time, but she knew something must have happened to her because she knew that that was not in her head. She got chills. Like, you know when you hear something, you know if it's in your head or if it's really happening. It's a gut feeling. It's your intuition. She could not go back to sleep until morning. So she falls asleep when it's close to morning time, and then she wakes up like after a couple of hours, and that's when she like hears that her friend had passed away in the middle of the night, which is kind of similar to my stepmom's story because a friend kept her promise. She went after her for help, even after death. So the fourth one, is that the fourth one? I believe so. If it's not, I'll correct myself. So when my mom was a teenager, she used to practice witchcraft. She was a witch. Anyway, she always had a gift for this, and it's just too bad she let it die, honestly. Because as she grew older, she just gave up on all this stuff. She's still interested in like cleansing and all that stuff. She asked me to cleanse her house, when I was living close to her and all that stuff. And yeah, anyway, to summarize everything, she did a spell. A love spell. So the spell, the goal is to tell you the name of your husband, your future husband or wife. Okay, so the spell goes like this. You get a knife. She was around 15, by the way. You get a knife and you have to stab a tree. You have to go to a forest and then you have to stab a tree. And then you chant something after you stab the tree. And then on the next day, you're supposed to go back to this place. And then you get the knife. And then you look. And the name of your husband or wife is gonna be on the knife, carved into the knife. So it doesn't sound scary, right? But in the book, it says, you must not look back while doing the spell. You must not. Do not even turn around, like, for a second. Do not. And the book was pretty clear, which is a little scary. Like, why? I don't know. Because when someone tells you, like, don't turn around, all you want to do is turn around, right? So yeah, you gotta do that at midnight on a full moon, and I'm pretty sure there's more to it, I just don't remember. So my mom, after she stabbed the tree, she had this urge to just turn around. Told ya, you always want to do that. So guess what? She does that. So as she turns around, she notices something's there, but she can't see it because it was dark, complete darkness. And as soon as she looks at this thing, like, she doesn't know how to explain. She knows it was something. As soon as she looks at this thing, the whole atmosphere changes and she gets terrified. So that's when she notices there's nothing there anymore, but she can still feel it. You know what I mean? She's like, I'm gonna get out of here. So she runs like hell, but then she feels the thing going after her. She does not look back anymore. She just runs and runs and runs. Sorry about that. A 15-year-old girl in a forest running from something she cannot see. How terrifying is that? She was brave. But anyway, she gets home. Everything's okay. The next day, she goes back to the place. Brave girl. She goes back to the place. She gets the knife and then she looks at it, and something was carved into the knife. But it was like, you know when you're just like writing something and just like you mess up and just like, ugh. You know what I mean? Just a bunch of gibberish. But to this very day, she wonders, what would have happened if she had just stopped running? What was that thing? And why did the spell make it pretty clear that you should absolutely not look behind you? What was that? What do you guys think? Okay, so the last one, the fifth one, I don't know which one is scariest. Like, I don't know which one is the scariest of this list. I know I said that the one with my sister-in-law was the scariest, but now that I remember this one, I don't know. Like, they both scare me, honestly. I think this one is the scariest. So this happened to my uncle. So back in the day, he was looking for a new place to live. He wanted to buy something for him. He was tired of like living at people's houses and all that. So he got a pretty good deal on this particular house. He couldn't believe it. Like, this house is great. How can it be so cheap? And he was young at the time. They just sold it to him that easily. No credit check, no nothing. He wondered why that place was so cheap, but not for long, because after what happened, he found out that that was why. After he bought the house, he found out that a couple had committed a murder-suicide right there. So he was like, okay. He didn't care. He was a skeptic. And so one night, I don't know if it was on the first or second night of him being in the house, he still didn't have a bed, so he was sleeping like in a mattress. Anyway, he wakes up in the middle of the night to a couple staring at him, like staring down and looking down at him. And they had this mad look in their faces. Like, they were mad that he was there. Like, you don't belong here. They didn't say that, but the look in their eyes, you know what I mean? He thought it was a very young, good-looking couple. So they were just staring at him for a while, and he felt like he could move. He wasn't paralyzed or anything. It was like he was hypnotized by the couple, you know? So they just kept staring at him for minutes, and he was just like looking at them as well. And he was scared, but at the same time he wanted to keep looking, which I've heard this happen to a lot of people when they see stuff. Anyway, so after minutes of the couple just staring at him, they just turn around and then they walk away, and then they kind of like fade away. So that made him not be a skeptic anymore. And then days and like weeks and months after that, before he called a priest to just like pray for the house, he kept hearing stuff. So yeah, that was a little scary. Like, I know it doesn't sound that scary, but I don't know why that one. Maybe because when I heard this story, I was like a little kid. But then again, I've always loved that kind of stuff. So I don't know why I think this one is so scary. So yeah, what do you guys think? Which one of these was like the scariest, like on this list? And did any of those scare you? Because I know they weren't like super scary, but they were still scary. The one with the love spell was very interesting because I want to know what, like, I don't want to see it. I wonder, what was that thing running after my mom? What was that? Anyway, I guess we'll never find out. Maybe someday. Who knows? Let me know your thoughts and let me know which one was your favorite and which one was the scariest. And yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for taking time here to just watch this video. I hope you have an awesome day or night. And if you're watching this at night, sweet dreams. Thank you so much again, and I'll see you children in my next video. Doodles!